Alright, what's going on, y'all? It's Cooper here, one half of FCSN. It's that time of the week to break down the college football playoff, where I give you guys my top four, along with the four teams I have on the bubble that could work their way in, depending on if they have a big win or someone else in front of them loses. Before I jump into it, though, at 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN, the college football top 25, along with the four teams in the playoff, will be revealed. So make sure you guys go and watch that, 7:30 Eastern Time, ESPN. And then one more thing I want to get out of the way before I jump into my top four is that I do not believe Oregon should have jumped Florida State last week. I think Oregon is playing very good football, and they may be a better team than Florida State, but I don't think it's fair for them to jump a team that hasn't lost. And personally, in my opinion, a lot of you may disagree with me, Florida State's schedule is pretty even with Oregon's. The teams that Florida State beat were ranked when they played them, and now they're starting to play their way out. Will that be because of injuries or they're just starting to slump? I don't think that's fair to discredit their top 25 wins like ESPN is starting to do, saying, oh, FSU's only beaten one top 25 team, when they really in reality have beaten four. I just don't think that's fair. Oregon may be a better football team. Like I said, they had one bad loss, and I think that hurts you. It's got to hurt you. You lose a game, it's going to knock you down in some kind of way. It really doesn't matter, though, because they're 2-3. It's interchangeable. I'm just putting my opinion out there. Enough of that, though. Let's go ahead and jump into it. At the number 4 overall spot, I have the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who were number 1 in the country last week and then slipped up on the road at Alabama. They played all right. Dak Prescott definitely played himself out of that Heisman lead. He had 3 picks. The defense is solid up front. The defensive backs aren't the greatest, but overall it's a very well-rounded team. They were on the road, lost number 5 team in the nation, so it's not fair to drop Mississippi State that far. Good football team. I think if they win out and they have one loss and Alabama wins out, I think you still throw them in here. We might have a rematch of that Alabama-Mississippi State game. I have Mississippi State at the 4 overall spot. At number 3, I have Oregon, who is playing outstanding football right now. I don't believe style points should be a factor. Style points should be a factor if two teams have the same record. But if two teams have different records and one team hasn't been lost, I don't think they should jump them, as I said. But Oregon playing some very good football. And like I said, Oregon and Florida State are interchangeable. I have a number 3 overall spot. At number 2, I have Florida State. And words cannot describe this team. I don't know what to say about them. But every week they put themselves in a huge, at least like 20-point hole, it seems like. And they just find a way to scratch and call out of it. And it's weird. I don't know. This team they've been impressive. Like, you can't say it's not impressive the way they come back. It's just weird that, like, they're not. Well, it's not the same team as last year, so it's not fair to compare them last year. But they're just not dominant. Like, they're not dominant, but they don't lose. Like, if you don't lose a game, it's hard to knock them. It's just a weird team. It's a weird team. But if Florida State wins out, they're definitely in the playoff. I have a number 2 overall spot. At number 1, I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Big time win over Mississippi State. They had one loss to a great Ole Miss team. Not great, but very good Ole Miss team. Ole Miss is solid. That was Alabama's only loss. It was on the road. Ole Miss was hyped up. It was game day there. Understandable why Alabama lost the game. But then they went out and beat number 1 team in the country at home. And I think it's fair to throw Alabama at number 1. They're playing like one of the best teams in the nation at this point in time. I think they've had that number 1 over spot. Breaking down the matchups now, if we had an Alabama-Mississippi State rematch on a neutral site, I think Alabama is just a better team. I think Mississippi State is very good. I just think Alabama across the board just has better athletes, just better players. And of course, they just recruited better players. I mean, some guys go underrated. Mississippi State on the roster has a lot of guys that went underrated in recruiting. But Alabama, I just think, like I said, better across the board. I think on neutral site, they win that game. Move on to the Florida State-Oregon matchup. 2 high-powered offenses that definitely could put up some points. But I think Florida State's defense and up front would beat up Oregon just a little bit. They wouldn't stop them at all. Now, Oregon's going to put up that points, but I think Florida State's defense up front is able to put a little bit of pressure on Mariota, similar to what Arizona did a little bit. And I think that that hurts Oregon. I have Florida State winning the matchup. Let me know in the comment section below what your top 4, though, is. And if I had these matchups, who you would pick in there. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into my top 4 bubble teams. Alright, so here's a look at the 4 teams I have on the bubble. You might say, oh, what's going on with that last spot? Why did I say SEC East? This is why. SEC East, the winner of it, I would have the winner of the SEC East, and if they were able to win the SEC championship, I think it's tough to deny them a playoff spot. And that would knock an SEC West team out of contention. That would be Missouri or Georgia. Missouri has 2 SEC games left, Tennessee and Arkansas, I believe. Georgia has none left. They've played their SEC schedule. They have the tiebreaker over Missouri if Missouri is to lose one of these 2 games. Missouri, I think maybe they might lose, but if Missouri wins out, And then they win the SEC championship with 2 losses. That loss to Indiana wasn't all that impressive, but I think it's, like I said, tough to deny them a playoff spot. Georgia, if they continue to win, they had a big win over Auburn. Auburn not as great as they were last year, but that's still impressive. And then they will win the SEC championship. That's another big win to their resume. And I don't think you can deny them either. But Georgia Tech stands in Georgia's way, by the way. And that's to be easier said than done. Georgia Tech, one of those tough teams to prepare for. That offense can be dangerous. They eat up clock. And they've been playing pretty well as of late, up near the top of the ACC Coastal. So that would definitely be a great game. So I would have the SEC East. It's a long shot. It could happen, but I don't really realistically see it. But we're starting at the end of the season now, and you start getting situations like this. Moving on to the 7th overall spot is Ohio State, a team that's playing their best football right now. They're peaking at the right time. But the bad thing about it, though, is they had a very bad loss at home to a very mediocre Virginia Tech team, and then they don't have a great schedule at all. They don't really play a whole lot of people out of conference at all. Virginia Tech was it. That's the best team they play out of conference. And then Michigan State is a really good team. Besides that, Minnesota is all right, and then after that is just terrible. Their regular season schedule in the Big Ten. And that's just my opinion. But Ohio State could continue to work their way up if these teams knock each other out. I could definitely see Ohio State working their way in the playoff at number 7 overall spot. At number 5, I have our 6, TCU. High-powered offense. They struggle versus Kansas a little bit, but very impressive team overall if they continue to win. I think they need Baylor to slip up, though. That's why I'll go ahead and get to that real quick. Baylor I have them at 5. This is why. If the committee really values a conference champion like they say they do, Baylor would then hold the tiebreaker over TCU. Baylor will win the Big 12. I know TCU's resume is a little bit more impressive as of right now, and that's why people say TCU is in that college football playoff and Baylor isn't. But if Baylor wins the conference, I don't see how you can deny them a playoff spot over TCU if they beat TCU head-to-head. I know TCU should have won the game. They're up 21. I'm not going to say should have won. I'm not going to take any credit away from Baylor, but TCU had the game won and blew it. I just don't see how you put TCU over Baylor if Baylor beat them head-to-head and then Baylor win that conference. So that's my bubble teams. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Leave your top 4 in the comment section below. As I said, make sure you watch that tonight. Follow me on Twitter at CooperFCSN and like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more content like this. And this is Cooper signing out.